Hello and welcome to episode number 27 of Zach's Tech Talk Tuesday. My name is Ryan McQueeney, and on this week's show, since I know you guys are probably frustrated after what has been a massive 2-day sell-off in the stock market, we will be shifting our attention to the cryptocurrency market to discuss what has been a massive sell-off over there. So it's been a massive sell-off in cryptos. So we're going to be kind of discussing, the extent to which that sell-off has impacted the market. And we're also going to profile a polarizing altcoin or alternative to Bitcoin that could be causing a lot of the latest panic in the market. Fair warning here, we are recording this episode on Monday night, and I feel that's important to say because of how quickly things can change when you are talking about cryptocurrencies. But at the time of this recording, coinmarketcap.com, which is my personal favorite price tracker, has Bitcoin down more than 9.75% over the past 24 hours. And over that same time frame, Ether has dropped more than 10.6%. Ripple slumped about 7.7%. Bitcoin Cash, the popular hard fork of Bitcoin, has crashed over 15%. And Litecoin has tumbled more than 6.2%. I was actually looking at CoinMarketCap's top 100 coins by total market cap, and basically every single one of the top 100s were in the red on Monday, or a couple of note keeping things in the green, but it was a bloodbath on Monday. And that's really kind of become the norm over the past couple weeks. It's been a rough stretch here for cryptocurrency traders. Bitcoin has now shed more than 60% of its value since surging to roughly $20,000 at the beginning of 2018. And the original and largest cryptocurrency, as we know, typically takes the rest of the market with it. And actually looking at the total market cap of the world's cryptocurrencies on CoinMarketCap.com, you can see that it's been sliced in half in about 4 weeks. That's clearly a very dramatic sell-off, and attempting to find one single reason for this kind of sell-off or the previous surges is nearly impossible. Looking at what could be causing the volatility we've seen, we know that fears of increased regulation in several key Asian markets, including China and South Korea, probably scared some investors. We talked about that on the show. We can also assume that many longtime holders decided $20,000 was a great place to cash out their massive profits. I actually saw somebody on a Reddit thread, r/Bitcoin thread, a few weeks ago now. I think it was when it was crossing over into the 17,000, 18,000 threshold, that said, I'm out here, talk to my wife, we have this as our selling point. I'm paying off our entire mortgage with our profits, and we decided as a family that was where we wanted to be. I would assume that longtime holders that had massive profits decided to ditch at that all-time high. It makes sense. It's a trend we see with a lot of different types of assets. But again, trying to pin it down to, profit taking or fears of regulation in China or South Korea, it's never just one thing. And it's kind of hard to put your finger on even a couple things. But there is a kind of an interesting phenomenon going on right now that could explain some of the recent slump, especially in Bitcoin. What I'm talking about here relates to a crypto token called Tether. Tether is actually what is called a stable coin. It's designed to kind of maintain one value, and in this case, it's attempting to maintain the value of $1 US. Tether tokens are actually issued by a Hong Kong-based company. I believe it's called Tether Limited. That's supposedly, and I'm going to put the emphasis on supposedly there because we'll get back to whether it's actually happening or not in a little bit, supposedly backs each newly minted, quote unquote minted, if you will, newly issued token with a fresh US dollar in a reserve that it maintains. So the idea of Tether is that it's used to cash in and out of Bitcoin faster because you kind of avoid the rather complicated process of converting multiple currencies. Traders can use Tether to kind of price digital assets in US dollars without having to maintain a USD based bank account. And then that kind of helps global exchanges maintain banking relationships around the world. So it's an attractive token for its usefulness in facilitating transactions. But the concern surrounding it is kind of twofold. First, Tether's parent company has never published an audit of its reserves to prove that it actually has the amount of US dollars that it claims to own, that would match up to the amount of issued tethers on the market. We know that the company hired a New Jersey-based auditing firm to conduct this audit, but we also know that that relationship has dissolved within the past few weeks, and it does not look like that firm will actually be conducting an audit after all. So, in other words, we just are having to take Tether's issuing company at its word that it does own all of the US dollars that it says it does. And then what that kind of leads to a greater concern is that because of Tether's importance in facilitating transaction, it helps to prop up the value of Bitcoin, meaning that Bitcoin's price may actually have been determined under false pretenses if the company Tether is fraudulent. A new anonymous research report that a lot of people in the cryptocurrency market are talking about over the past few days dug into these potential issues. It really just kind of combed through publicly available information, but it is worth noting that it was commissioned by a group of investors called the 1000X group. Although the actual author themselves decided to stay anonymous. If you look at what some experts and analysts in the field are saying, the findings are actually pretty trustworthy. And basically what the report does is links sudden increases in Bitcoin's price to the arrival of newly issued batches of Tether at a major cryptocurrency exchange. Essentially, the idea there is that because the company recognized Tether's ability to prop up Bitcoin's value, kind of was just arbitrarily issuing new tokens to support a rising price. The author ultimately concludes that Tether could be responsible for nearly 40% of Bitcoin's current value. And, that could be a serious problem if Tether is actually fraudulent, which the author of the report essentially argues. In the summary, the author says, quote, "It is highly unlikely that Tether is growing through any organic business process, rather that they are printing in response to market conditions," end quote. So again, getting back to an audit, that's really going to be the only way I could see any sort of proof that Tether is actually backed by an equivalent number of dollars. It's going to have to take a third-party firm to come in and conduct an audit. And the fact that we saw movement towards that followed by, movement in the exact opposite direction just a few days really after this concern started arising is not a good sign. And I think that cryptocurrency skeptics, people who want to look at the market and say, well, it's all fraudulent, are going to point to a story like this as further evidence that the market is kind of fraught with deceit and, more so than that, uncertainty. I just want to say I don't necessarily have that opinion of the entire cryptocurrency market. And I think I've said on the show before that the blockchain technology that goes into a lot of these coins is really interesting and valuable, and something that I don't think is necessarily going to go away, even if this sell-off continues. When we're talking about a useful technology versus trying to price a digital asset at its fair value, those are two entirely different conversations. That being said, tensions are kind of high right now with a lot of cryptocurrency traders, just based purely off of the price action that we've seen over the last few weeks. When we're talking Bitcoin down 60% over the past month or whatever, that's gonna bring some tension into the conversation, certainly. So I don't want to take necessarily a super firm stance here. I just would like to point to that Tether report that's linking a certain amount of Bitcoin's price to Tether, a coin that the legitimacy of it can certainly be called into question. I think it's an interesting story and one to keep our eyes on here for anyone really interested in the cryptocurrency market over the coming weeks. That being said, I'll do my best to keep my eyes on this story as it plays out, and we'll get any updates that are relevant here on the Tech Talk Tuesday. I'll keep my eyes here on all the prices of the major coins, looking at things moving around, looking at if there's a bounce back to be had, where is the bottom, will certainly be something we want to keep track of. But yeah, that just about does it for me this week. Again, the whole story isn't there yet, obviously, and we'll have to keep an eye on it as it plays out further. But that's what we do know about it right now. And so as a reminder, if you feel that we missed something, or if you have a different opinion about Tether or the report that came out this week, feel free to shoot us an email at podcast@zacks.com. Make sure to check out all of our other audio content at zacks.com/podcasts. And remember to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. As always, thank you guys for listening to the Zacks Tech Talk Tuesday. We will see you next time.